needed workers. Now, that was very, very impressive. So that's the kind of thing that I'm trying to emphasize at this point, Richard.
Well, I'm glad you're emphasizing it, Vic, but I think that we should look at the total picture. Because I think actually the Communist Party was a very positive force in the United States on the whole. But you know, we deceived ourselves to a great extent about what was happening in the Soviet Union and the freedom there. But anyway, okay. So you joined the party in 1936, and you know, what was that? What experiences did you have? What contributions do you think the party made?
Well, I joined the Communist Party because by this time the Communist Party had demonstrated that it was a courageous fighter for a safety net in the United States, which did not exist up until that time. The Communist Party was instrumental in fighting for unemployment insurance, which was unknown to that point, for minimum wage, which was unknown up to that point. I mean, employers could literally get away with pennies, but a minimum wage was established. It was a very small minimum wage, but it was a minimum wage, and of course it's been advancing. Unemployment insurance, minimum wage, Social Security. Now these are things that FDR did, but FDR did them because, well, partly to stay the terrible anger that was building in the country, but also because of the pressure of the voters of the United States. But in the population of the United States, the Communist Party was organizing unemployed councils and workers' councils and trade unions, all kinds of agencies to let people know what we needed to pull ourselves out of this terrible, terrible depression, and we needed to allow us to survive. For example, the Communist Party was very instrumental in building the trade unions, the major industrial type trade unions. I mean, the unions that in auto, in steel, in rubber, in electrical, and chemical. These millions and millions of people came into the trade union movement, and the Communist Party played a very important leadership role in this.
Yes.
I'll make one more point. John L. Lewis, who started the Congress for Industrial Organizations, he was the president of the United Mine Workers. He was anti-communist. He was all for capitalism, but he used to look for and employ communists to be his organizers because he knew they were incorruptible, courageous, smart, knew how to organize, and could bring home the bacon.
Well, what role did you play in this, Vic? Well, you were an organizer too, weren't you?
What happened was that I had graduated from college. College in those years was a very inexpensive proposition, not like now.
Right.
In fact, I had already graduated with a master's degree in English literature from the University of Iowa, and the tuition there.
And?
The tuition there.
Yes.
The tuition at the University of Iowa was $39 a semester for in-state people, but somebody like me, I was from out of state, it cost me $49 a semester to go to the University of Iowa, and I got a room for the year for $50.
Yeah.
So I was able to, I had a master's degree in English literature by 1938. But I figured that if I wanted to help and do this wonderful work that the Communist Party was doing, well, there's only one thing I should do, and that is, it's clear, doesn't it? Isn't it, Richard? You have to go into a factory. So I took a short course in becoming a machinist at the YMCA. It was a terrible course. They taught you very little. But then I had a succession of jobs in factories. I would last 2 days or a week or 3 weeks or another 4 days. And I would always tell them that I had 5 years experience and I would go to work there. And I would always learn something. And finally, by the time I was in my getting toward my mid-20s, I already was a pretty good machinist, and I got a job in a factory with some 600 workers. It was not organized, and I organized that factory. Now that factory, when I came to work there, had no vacations, no holidays, no sick leave, no...
What factory was it?
A place called Waldy's, and Long Island City had a lot of these.
Yeah.
Long Island City was a lot of factories there at that time.
Mm-hmm.
There was a Czechoslovakian company that had a plant in Spain and the United States, and I organized that factory, and organizing it was very quick work because people were eager to join the union because they knew that it was going to give them something very tangible, something very worthwhile.
So you organized it, they became organized, and they began to get vacations?
Well, what happened was that we won the contract, and we got higher wages, and we got paid vacations, and paid holidays, and paid sick leave, and paid health insurance. And also, see, another thing happens when you join the union. Not only do you get all these very tangible improvements in your working life, but a factory is a dictatorship. The foreman is a dictator. The supervisor over the foreman, he's a dictator. The boss is the chief dictator. And the worker, the individual worker, has absolutely no recourse against these dictators. I don't like the way you look, get out of here. Well, with the union, you establish what is known as a grievance procedure. Nobody can be fired. Nobody can be in any way disciplined without telling the union about it and having the worker appear with the union representatives and having the union and the worker.
Well, let me ask you something. Yeah. Let me ask you something about this. The New Deal put in laws helping the unions, right? So that it was harder to break a union, and the National Labor Relations Board came in. Roosevelt put that in.
A very good senator by the name of Wagner, Senator Wagner, I think.
From New York, yeah.
From New York. He was one of the, it was called the Wagner Act because of his participation. And it is true that this was put in by the New Deal. But let me revert to a previous point. The New Deal did it because of the pressure from the people.
Now, wasn't there also pressure from, in addition to communists, from socialists, from progressives, La Follette progressives, from liberal Democrats? I mean, there was a lot of pressure, including the communists, to put these reforms in, wasn't there?
Of course.
Yeah, yeah.
Of course. The only footnote I would give to what you just said is something I've already suggested, and that is we communists were, in a sense, dedicated to this work